Doyle-Cast. We are in Wyandotte, Michigan, and I just got off the plane after 8 hours. I've had a pretty adventurous 2 hours since I got off the plane. I just ran into my brother's best friend, who I hack his last name, even after knowing him 50 years, Jim Tefetheren. He saw my post and showed up. I don't think I've seen him since 1974, and I was probably all of 10 years old. No, 74, I would have been 8 years old. So there you go. Old home week. And then our friend Dennis Rosales, former Marine, just walked in the door, big supporter. And we are sitting here with Ann Rudisill. Ann Rudisill is the founder of Downriver for Veterans. Ann, say hi.
Hi.
That's it?
Hi, this is great to be here.
Well, thank you for being here. So, again, Downriver for Veterans, we are at 2447 Fort Street in Wyandotte, Michigan, and you do a lot of good things, and we're going to get into that in a minute. What I like to do, and I get a little self-conscious about it, but Dennis is one of them that sent me a comment and said, look, dude, you got to say that in every podcast, so I'll let you know why I'm doing this. There's two reasons. One, I really like to do it. It's a lot of fun. I've been told I'm halfway decent at it, and I had the opportunity to kind of hone my skills, study, research, and come up with a good solution that I can do that's portable, that still looks a little bit like quality. And the reason I had that time is for the last 5 years, I was primary caregiver for my dad. He was a World War II Navy vet.
Wow.
And he got in at the end, but all that time caring for him, all that time being his son, only in the last couple of years did my brother and I find out he had a story to tell. And I come to find out that it's all too common, that especially the old-timers, for lack of a better term, didn't talk about these things. So my dad, just near the end of his life, he passed away in December at 90, he said, bad teeth saved my life. Well, I didn't catch your face there, but us too. We did the same thing. We had the exact same thing. I'm like, okay, Dad, huh? And I see you thinking through it because you're former service, so we'll get into the introduction here in a second. I said, Dad, what the heck are you talking about? And he said, well, I had some bad teeth. In basic, I was a dental holdover, so they could pull a few teeth. And while I was recuperating and getting my dental work, they shipped off the rest of my class. They were put on a ship. That ship was sunk, and everybody died. Yeah. So that was like, well, Dad, that's pretty important, don't you think? And again, those guys just didn't talk about that. Mm-hmm. So I was his power of attorney. I was his, my brother and sister were tremendous help, but I lived close, and I was his primary caregiver and liaison to the VA. We got him declared homebound. We got him financial assistance every month. We got him wheelchairs, scooters, everything. And you know from your experience, that is not easy.
No.
That is a full-time job in itself. And last year I happened, in August, to get laid off. And I got laid off. If there's a perfect time to get laid off, it was then, because my dad was in the last throes of his battle. We didn't know it at the time, but I got to care for him full-time. And during that time, I sat down with him, and I'd be sitting next to a gentleman that said World War II Air Force. I'd start asking him the story because we had time, and a guy would say, well, you know, I was down in the bubble underneath with the machine gun. I was a navigator, and then in passing, he said, I flew a little bit too. And I went, huh? How do you fly a little bit? And he said, well, the captain was a buddy of mine, and it's back then. It's informal, so he kind of showed me how the controls worked. And I said, okay, cool. How do you fly a little bit? And he said, well, we were a bombing run over Germany. First officer was hit, obliterated, drug him out of the seat, and I was helping the captain. Captain was hit. Not killed, but he was hit, and he was bleeding, and he said, okay, I forget his name. I got it written down. He said, put us on this heading, fly us 3 hours. We should be close to home. I'm passing out. Bye. and this guy flew the plane, a bomber, all by himself. And I'm just sitting with him in a waiting room, and he's in a Hawaiian shirt and sandals and all by himself. And that's when, after my dad and after him, it hit me that we're losing these stories. Yes, there's a great stories. Like I sat down with Jack Holder a couple of weeks ago, who's a Pearl Harbor survivor, wrote a book. He's been touring. Those guys are great. But we're losing the stories of my dad and the other gentleman that was driving a golf cart at the hospital because he volunteered, and he had appendicitis in basic, and he was going to the front line as a Marine, and they discovered they gave him an aptitude test while he was recuperating, and they go, no, you're going to be something else, and they put him in a plane, and he did 25 years and flew all over the world. So I'm like, these little stories need to be heard.
Yes.
I do other podcasts too, where I go and find fun people. We're fun, but I find
There we are.
Yeah, darn right. I find things like our good friends in Arizona founded and run a thing called Goat Yoga.
I saw that.
Okay, those are our best friends.
I saw that.
And now there's multiple of them all over the country, but they founded it. They started it. So we sat down with both the owners, and they're a hoot. And I'm sitting down with an old friend from high school who just happens to be a retired Secret Service agent. And then, boy, I might have to edit this out because I got to get permission, but I'm going to say it anyways. I'm pretty excited. I had a veteran vouch for me that's pretty well connected. And in the next 3 weeks, I had 2 Medal of Honor winners set up to talk to. And you know what their main concern was? Don't edit. He said, I want to view it first, and if I don't like it, you're not putting it out. And I said, I won't cut a thing. And he goes, what? And he goes, I'm sick of my answers coming out slanted towards the left or the right, or for this candidate or that candidate, or not meaning what I said. I am sick of it. And I said, that's not what I'm doing. I'm doing something called a long-form podcast, which means we can talk for 10 hours if you want. We're not gonna. But if you want to talk for 10 hours, we can talk, and you'll get your complete thought and everything out that you want to talk about. So having said that, that's my long-winded, because Dennis is sitting here, and he told me I need to share it. That's my long-winded explanation of why I like to do this. And I have an opportunity to travel and do that, and it's hopefully turning into something. We're talking to sponsors and all that good stuff. So we'll see where it goes. Having, again, said that, Ann Rudisill, founder of Downriver for Veterans, my understanding is there's somewhere in the neighborhood of 20, we're approaching 2,500 members,
Yes.
which is nothing to sneeze at all. That's a lot of people. That's a lot of people to be Facebook friends with. And imagine having that many members and different things. Let me ask you, what's your background and why did you get into this?
I'm a Vietnam era vet.
Okay.
I was stationed in Colorado at the Air Force Academy.
Okay.
I did my time. I wanted to go to Vietnam, but unfortunately, when I went in, the only people they let go to Vietnam was nurses. I'm not a nurse.
Okay.
So I ended up cutting the orders to bring the guys home.
Okay.
I got married. Make a long story short, he was from here. I came here.
Where are you from originally?
I'm originally from England. Yes.
Okay.
I came across on the Queen Elizabeth II.
Well, that's a story. Don't just brush past that.
I went to school at St. Lawrence Girls' School in Montreal, Quebec.
So were you a military child?
Nope. I was adopted and brought across the ocean by my adopted parents.
So you were born overseas in England,
Mm-hmm.
and your parents were American?
No, my stepfather was naval.
Okay.
I don't know my real father.
Okay.
I don't know my real mother. But we came across on the Queen Elizabeth. We went to Montreal, Quebec for 2 years, where my adopted father got a job at Nassau. So we left Canada and went all the way to California. And I don't know if you remember the station wagon, the Esquire. with the wood on the side of it.
The wood paneling Brady Bunch wagon, I certainly do.
Yeah, we drove from Canada, Montreal, Quebec, all the way to California.
Okay.
He got a job there. I went to school there. As a matter of fact, I graduated from Silicon Valley.
All right.
My high school was Saratoga Sunnyvale High, which is where Microsoft is now.
Sure.
And I got a job when I was like 17 years old.
Are you a U.S. citizen at this point?
No.
Okay.
No. I have been here since 1958, 68. I've applied for my citizenship. My issue is I have adoption papers. I do not have a birth certificate.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. I went through a little of that with my dad. We had his DD 214. He doesn't have a birth certificate.
No.
So-
Isn't that funny? I could go in the service without it, but I can't become a citizen
Right.
without it.
It's interesting times. I can tell you a few
Yeah.
different stories, but yeah, he was born in Tennessee in a cabin, I'm sure, somewhere. And so there's not a lot of record for him. But we had because he lived on the Arizona-Mexico border and would go over to buy medication or whatever, gin. He got not a passport, but he got a document that said he could travel back and forth.
Right.
And he had everything his whole life. Driver's license.
I've got it all.
DD 214,
Yeah.
marriage certificate, everything in the world, but he does not have a birth certificate.
Yeah.
That I remember we ever found, and I would probably know.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, that's okay. So I went to work for a H-Salt fish and chip, which is kind of funny because I was born in England. So to get a job in California working for an H-Salt fish and chip was kind of funny. I was an obnoxious, typical 17-year-old that thought she could run the world. I stole from the owner religiously for about 6 months. And then one day I went into work and the owner came over to me and he said, I want to talk to you. And I said, okay. I thought I was going to get a promotion because I was like 17. There ain't no way in hell he knows. And he calls me in and he says, I just want to let you know that I know you have stolen $664 from me in the last 6 months. And I went, no, I haven't. He goes, yes, you have. He said, so I'm going to give you a choice. You can go to jail or you can go in the military. What's your choice? And I went, well, I'll go in the military. Well, I was 17 years old, so I needed permission. So I went to my Nana and I asked her, I said, listen, I don't have a choice. I didn't tell her the details. I said, I need to go in the service. I want to better myself. And of course, my little Nana was like, oh, I'm so proud of you. So she said, okay, I will sign for you to go in. And she said, what are you going to go in? And I said, well, I want to go in the Air Force only because I know, and I'm sure I'm going to get slammed for this, but I know it takes a lot more to get into the Air Force than it does any other branch. So I want to do the Air Force.
How you feel about that, Mr. Marine, sitting over there? Huh?
Yeah, he knows it's a fact. He knows it's a fact. So anyway, I went in and I took the test and I had to score a 94 in order to be accepted into the Air Force. I was terrified. I was like, I skipped school. I was the misfit. I was like, I know I didn't ace this. So they called me and they said, you scored a 96.
Yay.
I about died. So it was like, gone, bam. Went into the service. It changed my life. It was the best thing I could have ever done. I pretty much forced my son into it. I am a big supporter of the military, especially if you don't know where you're going in life. It is the best thing you could do because it literally, and there are obstacles that I'm seeing now. I'm older with Downriver for Veterans. I see what the problems are now and he can attest to this. When you go into the military, they tear you down. Right. You come out of basic training the person they want you to be. The person you used to be is literally gone. Am I not correct? The problem is when you get out of the military, they don't tell you how to become the person you were. they let you go as the person they wanted you to be, which is why we have now so many problems with our veterans, which is why I started Downriver for Veterans.
Absolutely fantastic. And you reiterate a point with Sergeant Mack, a Marine that I talked to a couple of weeks ago, and Silver Star winner. And is something I thought about on the plane ride to see him in Houston, is that we ask young men and women to go into battle, into war.
Mm-hmm.
And I equated it to, once a state park bear or a wolf gets taste of human of blood, you can't turn them off. So they
Right.
usually end up putting them down.
Right.
I'm guessing. I'm going off memory here, so state park people out there, don't eat me alive. Poor choice of words there, but anyways. So we asked these men and women to go and turn everything off, but to turn on that instinct to just not have compassion and go into the battles and horrors of war. And then when they get out, I don't know, because I did not serve, what the exit process is like. Mm-hmm. So I asked him, and he just said, nah, not so much. And you'll like this too. I've been selling communication supplies to the military for the last 20 years. I met 6 or 7 Vietnam helicopter pilots, and I knew them the second they walked in the door. They were, you care if we swear a little bit?
No.
They were batshit crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And I equated it to, okay, they had a life expectancy of like 48 seconds. They lived, and from the movie Platoon, he goes, hey, man, you made it. The rest of your life is gravy. So they did not care what they said.
No.
They were unfiltered. If it was on the tip of their tongue, it was coming out. And
yes.
It's a problem as a layman, me looking, hey, you just can't ask, if somebody's in prison 20 years and they come out, they're going to be one way. If somebody's in the military, they're one way. If somebody works at Lowe's for 20 years and comes out, and then you put them in the living room, they're going to act a certain way and have a certain routine they're looking for, and certain reward centers in their brain. And it just, we got to figure that out. We have to, or figure out how to help, or figure out what that is. And I know we're an evolving species as people, and hopefully we'll figure out better ways, and I think we do. And then you got great people like yourself that offer an option that is not the VA.
No. We have, we only started this April 7th of 2017, so we haven't been going that long.
So a little over a year.
Yeah. We have provided, as you can see around the warehouse, we have provided food, toiletries, everything you can think of to veterans. We provide them when they get, we've got one veteran that was a Vietnam veteran, and his name's Victor, and he doesn't mind being called out. He was living in a mobile home that his bed was in the middle of the mobile home.
Okay.
And somebody reached out to me and said, I need you to go check on this veteran. And I said, why? And they said, something's going on. His bed's in the middle of his mobile home. There's a tarp over the back of his mobile home, and we can see the floor is gone.
Okay.
So I got in the car, and I went out to Flat Rock, and I had a bunch of food and some water and stuff, and I knocked on his door, and he opened the door, and I could see the bed, and I told him I was Ann from Downriver for Veterans, and I was here to do a welfare check. I said, how are you, Victor? And he said, I'm okay. And I heard 2 little yippy dogs that I couldn't tell if it was, excuse my language, their ass or their head. They were 2 Shih Tzus that were totally, totally full of fur. They were just terrible, matted messes. And he said to me, come in. Well, being a veteran, I know better than to go in any veteran's home. You just don't put yourself in that position, or them. So I told him, I said, no, I have some water and some food, and I have some dog food, but I'm going to put it in your doorway. So I asked him, I said, why is your bed in the middle of the mobile home? And he said, well, the floor fell down in the back bedroom, and it's black. I said, what's black? He said, the back bedroom. So he put a tarp up.
Right.
So I said, okay. So I dropped the stuff off, and immediately I knew there was an issue. So I called a friend of mine who was Michael Crossman, who now works for Tittle, but he worked with an environmental company. And I called him. I said, listen, I need help. I'm not going in there. I don't know what's in there, but something is very, very wrong. So they went in and they did a test of the air. And they found out it wasn't black mold, but whatever the mold was, you were only supposed to have like 5,000 of it in order to be okay. It was over the 50,000 mark.
Oh, boy.
In his mobile home. So I said to the guy, what should I do? Now, mind you, we started in April. This was like May.
Right.
So I said, what should we
Hey,
do?
hey, Ann, 1 second.
Mm-hmm.
When you hit the table, that's the echo you hear through your hair. No, you're okay.
Okay,
And-
just
and,
don't.
Yeah, it's easier
Okay.
if you don't.
Okay. So I said, what do you suggest I do? And he said, I'll tell you right now, if you care about him, get him out of here within the next couple of days because he's going to die, let alone his dogs. I said, are you kidding me? And he said, no. So I was heartbroken. I mean, we had no money. We had just started. I had no clue what to do. So I got on Facebook. We started fundraising. We started getting people involved. And I went back to see him.
And no such thing as Downriver for Veterans at this point as an organization.
No,
Okay.
we were not there.
I just want to make that clear.
Yeah, we were not there. So I went back to see him and I said, listen, I said, I know you don't know me. I said, but I promise you before August, I will get you out of here because I didn't know what we were going to do. And I didn't want to say in a month and
Sure.
not fulfill the
Sure.
promise. So I said, I promise you before August, we will get you out of here and you will be somewhere where you will be safe. So we did like 4 spaghetti fundraisers and we put it out there and we managed to get like $4,000.
Okay.
So we went to a trailer park, a mobile home park, Huron Estates. And I walked in and I talked to the owner. I said, listen, I need a mobile home. This is what I got to work with. So he showed me one for $3,600. I took a walk through it. It was solid. It was in a nice mobile home park. It was just awesome.
Wow.
So I said, okay, we're going to do this. And it was truly like magic because I got a hold of everybody and I said, listen. He wasn't on Facebook at the time. So I got a hold of everybody, all the people that really cared about what we do. And I said, listen, we need a couch. We need a bed. We need sheets. We need towels. We need a coffee maker. We need a crock pot. We need pots, pans. We need everything to put in this mobile home because this man can't take anything. We can't because
Right.
it's full of mold. So all these women, these busy little bees, just ran all over the place and got coffee and coffee makers and silverware and measuring cups and towels and sheets and shower curtain with the rings on it and everything you could think of, the rugs, everything. So I took Victor and I said, listen, we're going to buy you a mobile home. And he broke down and he said, what? I said, we're going to get you a mobile home. And he said, well, so if I die, you get it back? I said, Victor, this is your mobile home. We are signing it.
Wow.
I'm giving you the keys.
Wow.
So as we're signing it, the busy little bees are at his mobile home getting it ready.
Polishing up.
Yeah. So we get done, and I called them, on the side, and I said, okay, we're on our way. Are you guys ready? And they're like, we just got to throw the blanket over the back of the couch. I said, we're on our way. So I get Victor in the car, and I take him over to the mobile home. He had never seen it before. And I said, Victor, what do you think? And he goes, looks pretty good. And I said, well, let's take a look inside and see what you think. Victor has a very bad shaking,
Okay.
which is true to the veterans from Vietnam.
Right.
That's one of the issues they have. So we went in. We're going up the steps. He has no clue anybody's in there. So he goes up the steps and he goes to open the door.
That's okay. Good.
Excuse me. He goes to open the door into a living room. And there's a couch, the TV's on, there's a coffee table, there's a centerpiece. He walks in and he goes, this is somebody's house. I go, Victor, this is your home. And
This
he
is
opens
somebody's
it, and the
house.
people he knows are standing in the kitchen. And he starts to shake and falls, goes to fall. So
Oh.
we had to grab him.
Okay.
He is there now. As a matter of fact, this Friday, thank you to my boyfriend, we are building him a deck
Wow.
because he wants a deck.
Cool.
Yeah.
So that's your first project, and you were
Yes.
just trying to help, and now do you walk out and you go, well, if we could do that once, we could do it again?
Well, it's really funny because you were talking about your father, who's a World War II vet.
Right.
If you look at everything on this shelf right here,
Mm-hmm.
this is Mr. Malpese. Mr. Malpese was a World War II vet. Somebody reached out to me and said he is in Heartland Nursing Center, and he's alone. He's got no family, and I think somebody needs to check on him. So I said, okay, I'll go check on him. So I went and saw him. He was in a wheelchair with a female who was his girlfriend for the last 30 years, but they never got married. He lived upstairs, she lived downstairs. So I sat one day with him in the hallway, and I said, Mr. Malpese, and I told him who I was. And I said, can you tell me about yourself? And he said, I'm a World War II vet. And I said, what did you do in the war? And he went, I said, oh, you were a gunner. He goes, yeah. And I go, why are you in a wheelchair now? And he said, the Germans came in. I had to lay in the mud. He said, the tank ran over my back.
Ooh.
So, of course, he had a broken back. So anyway, Mr. Malpese had written from day one, and if you look at those books, you can pull down any one you want to pull down. He had written from the day he went into the military during World War II till the time he got out. He can tell you how many people were in every concentration camp. The reason I got these books was after Mr. Malpese died, his girlfriend called me up and she said, listen, Dale told me to call you when he died. He's dead. I said, okay. She said, I'm putting the books on the side of the road.
Whoa.
If you want them, you can get them, or they're gone. And I said, you cannot put them on the side of the road because those stories you're never going to hear, you're never going to find, you're never going to Google. And she said, well, they're already on the side of the road. So we took a pickup truck, and it took every single one of these. Some of them I have at my house that I'm reading because it's fascinating.
Absolutely.
There are maps in there. There are things in there that you'll never get told. These are the things that make DFV so important. We have veterans come in here, World War II vets, and they're like, oh my gosh, what is this? And I go, get a book. Sit down and read. You can't take it with you,
Right.
but you're welcome to sit here and read it. When you were talking about your dad, World War II,
Right.
that's Mr. Malpese right here.
Oh, how cool.
His life, because there's no children, there's no wife, that's his life. It's sitting here at DFE.
So the question, technology, I got a million questions, but so technology, are you working with somebody to get these all scanned in, or do you want to?
I had reached out to a couple of historical places.
Okay.
And their thing was, give us the books and we'll let you know. I'm not parting with those
No,
books.
no,
I
no.
cannot part with those books. So because I'm so busy, I have not found, I wish I could find somebody that could put them on a disc, but then I don't want them to ever go anywhere.
You don't want a disc.
You'll never read these books anywhere but here. My fear is the libraries don't want them. The UAWs, or not the UAWs, the VFWs, the American Legions don't want these. The schools don't want them because their theory is we want to know about World War II. Well, Google. You're not going to get that on Google because that's Mr. Malpese's every day of his life. There are pictures and news articles in there that you cannot find anymore.
Wow.
So they sit here protected by us until we find a place to put them where they will be forever.
Okay, so wow. We could end right there. That's fantastic, but we're not gonna. So you've got that connection.
Mm-hmm.
You've got the story under your belt, or experience under your belt of helping someone. Are we up to where you start downriver for veterans yet, or is that still kind of a thought?
We have become, like today, we had our board meeting last night. So today we spent about $5,000. We've got a Bronco that we're picking up on Thursday.
I saw that on Facebook.
Yes, that
Great
is
job.
the gentleman that is in dialysis 3 days a week that I just cannot, I can't find the time to take him anymore. So what better way but to give him a car? We have a female veteran who has 2 children who drives a truck that is literally falling apart. So the mayor of our city donated a van. We're
Okay.
getting that fixed, and she's getting the van.
Interesting. Now you got my head spinning because, again, I was an advocate for my dad, and I worked with a lot of advocates and kind of worked my way through the VA hospitals and found the people I needed to talk to, learned all the keywords, and we got him declared homebound. So I would work hard to get pre-authorization to get him to see a doctor close to him because it was a hardship, quote unquote, for him to travel.
Yes.
And I'm sure you've gone down that road. Do you have a lot of the free advocates here that work with the veterans, or?
I'm going to say something, and I don't want it edited out because
Okay.
I don't have a problem with it.
Okay.
Our Detroit VA is the worst there is.
You know I live in Phoenix, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. I go to the Detroit VA. The female facility is the best in the world. The male facility is bad. And I'm going to tell you why. 1 is their union. 2, they don't get fired. Yes.
Okay.
And 3, I was in there one day, and there was this 77-year-old man, and I was waiting in the x-ray department. And there were 2 lines. One was make an appointment. One was have an appointment.
Right.
And this old man was standing in between the 2 of them. And there were 2 ladies behind the counter. And I sat there, and I watched him stand there for 15 minutes.
I can finish your story. They let him stand there.
Yeah. So finally, I coughed, and the one looked at me, and I pointed at him, and the woman says to me, "What are you here for?" And he said, "An appointment." She goes, "You're in the wrong line." And he turned around, and he said, "There's nobody else in line." And she said, "I don't care. You're in the wrong line." I will never, ever forget this for as long as I live. He turned around, and he said, "You know what? I would rather die than continue to be treated the way you people treat me." He turned around and left. It is heartbreaking. I took a picture of the 2 women. I said, "I don't care if you're angry or not. You ought to be ashamed of yourself." They looked at me like, "Get out."
Right.
They didn't care. We have so many. It's like I tell a lot of people, if the VA was doing their job, I wouldn't be here, would I?
Great point. And I will tell you, just from my limited experience I had one really bad experience, but 9 times out of 10, once I beat that system up and was relentless, once I got to the actual caregiver, it was pretty good. But getting to that person that actually provided the care was excruciating. And there was 4 or 5 different systems, and if you used the wrong word or a wrong thing, it would start over. Like I said, I got really good at keywords like hardship and et cetera, and pre-authorization.
Right.
And, you know, I had him pre-authorization to go to the ER. I would call the VA ER, tell him, here's the situation. We're 50 miles away. There's one down the street. We'll go to that one. And I would go in, actually, sometimes with a pre-authorization number and make them write it down on the paper. I knew the form to fill out that said, that notified the VA that they were treating a veteran. And 9 times out of 10, we get a bill from that private facility within 60 to 90 days. And we still have bill collectors, and he died in December. So I know the frustration.
For an example, my story, I woke up one night and I couldn't get off the floor. And my boyfriend picked me up. I called him. I couldn't get off the floor. I felt like somebody had their hand on my head. And I grabbed my phone and I called him and I said, "I cannot get off the floor." And he said, "What do you mean?" I go, "I can't get off the floor." I had no clue what was wrong, but it felt like I couldn't get up. He come to my house. He picked me up. He rushed me to Wyandotte Hospital. We went into Wyandotte. and he will vouch for this. They got me in there. They did some tests. They told him and me, you need to call your family. You have an aneurysm.
Ooh. Ooh.
Am I not correct?
Oh, boy.
So he called my daughter. I'm thinking I'm going to die.
Sure.
So my daughter comes down. Her husband comes down. We're all sitting around. They do some more tests. They turn around and go, oh, it's not an aneurysm. So I to this day, I can't remember what it was. But to make a long story short, I went home. After a period of time, I ended up with $28,000 in debt.
Yep.
I fought the VA. They didn't care. I fought the VA. So I finally went to Debbie Dingell, who is our congresswoman. And I said, I need your help. This is wrong. I've gone to the American Legion. I fought with the VA. It's not working. She said, let me take care of it. Within a month, it was gone. She is now on my advisory board.
Nice.
I don't mess with the VA anymore.
Good for
I call
you.
Debbie Dingell.
So I will throw out another piece of advice that I learned, and I bet you know this one too, is I was in the VA hospital with my dad. I was having a real issue. Boy, I hesitate to tell this story, but anyways, I had a real issue. A nurse actually pulled me aside and said, look, I want you to go down to the first floor. You're going to go down 2 hallways. You're going to turn right. There's going to be an unmarked door. I want you to knock on it till somebody answers. That's the patient advocate.
I've been there.
You find that person. Well, in our case, it really worked.
Oh, that's good.
Because I found this person, and again, it's unmarked. I guess they don't want to advertise, so everybody's lining up at their door. But they walked in. I told the story. I kept my composure, but it was pretty horrific. And she said, come over here, pull up a chair behind me. We're going to type an email. And we typed an email, and she copied everybody in the world, including the director and people above the director and the doctor and everybody else. And people started snapping too. But why did I have to do that?
But see, in your situation, you did that, and it worked in Arizona. I went to the patient advocate twice for the 77-year-old man.
Yeah.
When it didn't work, I went to HR.
Wow.
And you know what HR told me? We will take care of it. We will terminate those people. I found them later on down the line in 2 different departments.
Of course.
So it doesn't matter how big DFV gets. If I want to fight the VA, I can, and I have threatened to do this many, many times. I can stand on the street and I'll scream as loud as I've got to scream, and I'll carry whatever sign I got to carry, and I will yell, and I will go to jail, and I'll come back out, and I'll fight you again and again and again. But when it comes down to it, I'm fighting for you while the other veteran gets neglected. So I have to weigh it out.
Oh.
I have to say, I'm going to fight you. And so now what I do is I go to Debbie Dingell and I say, this person, I don't care if I say this, pissed me off, and I need some help. It needs to change so that I don't have to do this again in 3 months.
Right.
Detroit is bad. Now, Ann Arbor, oh my gosh, Ann Arbor is the best VA I have ever heard of. They are fantastic there.
Are they getting fed people that want to get into the medical school there, so they're getting cream of the crop?
Well, I'm going to say something, and I don't care whether this is politically correct or not, because anybody that knows anything knows what the past of Detroit was.
And just to interrupt, so people that are not here downriver, Ann Arbor is where University of Michigan is, and one of the best medical facilities in the world. So that's why I asked the question, are they getting kind of people that are trying to get into U of M medical school, are they getting those people that are very ambitious but maybe weren't the top of the heap? So that is why I asked you that question,
but
and for the outsiders.
You still have the University of Michigan in Detroit. You've still got a lot of universities. You've got a lot going on. So it's... I think what happened in Detroit is the past. I think they put the mentality of the people that work there. I don't even know if they know what a veteran is. I truly do not know. When I go to Detroit, you can walk into, Ann Arbor. You can walk into Ann Arbor and they're like, hey, how you doing?
Right.
Need anything? They'll come over with a wheelchair. It's like, wow. You go to the desk to register and it's the same guy and he's like, hey, I remember you. How
Right.
you doing? You go to Detroit, it's the guy looks at you, gives you the card, stamps your, whatever you call it, so you don't have to pay. And it's like, can you tell me? Yeah, it's down the hall, down the elevator. The mentality is different, and I don't know why.
Well, there's probably a lot of reasons for it, and we have different personalities. We have the Phoenix VA, and then they built a new one in Gilbert, just for Arizona's sake. And then there's one down south in Tucson. There's a north and a south in Arizona VA system, which was a whole nother thing because my dad used to live in the south, and when he came north, it took me 18 months to get him hearing aids because his designation in the computer still said south rather than north. And when I finally got to the person that went in and typed N in place of S,
He got him.
2 weeks.
Yeah.
So, I don't want to turn this into a total bitch session about the
Oh, my God, no.
about the VA because we could
No.
go on and on.
No.
And off air, I'm going to tell you what happened to my dad, and that'll hopefully I won't have a heart attack over that one. But that was one of the most one of the most awful experiences we've ever had, and just crushing. So VAs, we'll get that. We're not editing you out, believe me. That'll go. I'll make a special little clip that you can email to everybody if you want. So we still haven't opened Downriver for veterans yet, have we?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
So we, what don't we do? I mean, we have a unique group of people that I am like the crazy lady. They call me the crazy lady. I really am. I blow in, I blow out. I'm like, I'm here, and they'll go, where are you going? And I'll go, I gotta go. My boyfriend will attest to it. I'm crazy. We had a board meeting last night, and I told the board, I said, listen, we got a dialysis person. We need $1,000 to buy this car to give it to him. Done. We have a woman who's got 2 children whose truck has cost her more than the truck should ever cost. I have Joe Peterson donated a van. It's going to cost us $700. Bam, it's done. We have another guy that came up here, had a Kia. The transmission went out. We paid $1,000. Transmission's in. It's done. We are the step that got missed. We have a veteran that's here. We have 2 of them. Victor's one. The other one, I won't say his name right now.
Okay.
But they earn like $700 a month.
Okay.
That is it. That's all they get.
That's their
That's it.
Their military pension?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
They're 20% or whatever it is of disability they get from the VA. Victor, we pay $243 every single month towards his rent. He pays $300. We pay the rest.
Nice.
We give him food once a month. We're building his deck. We have another veteran that's here in Wyandotte that really was breaking my heart for a while, and I brought it up in the meeting last night, and I said, we have a second Victor. The poor guy can't even go out and get a 6-pack of beer. He has no money. When it's 100 degrees, the windows are open, there's no air.
Right.
So I called him today, and I said, we are going to pay $284 of your rent. I'm going to set you up with Stoltz's, which is a meat market, and we are going to get you a bundle of meat every single month that you can go and pick up. And we will still continue to provide you with the other necessities such as bleach and canned vegetables. And he started to cry, and he said, I don't know how to thank you. And my words were, how do we thank you?
Sure.
You serve this country, and you come home, and you can't pay for a 6-pack of beer because you have debt. It's not right. So for him to say, I can never repay you, my thing is, we shouldn't have to give you this. But if we can give this to you, then this is what Downriver for Veterans is. And I'm sorry I get emotional sometimes, but these veterans should be taken care of when they come home. They should have a job. They should have a car. They should have a house. They should be set. If they mess it up, that's their choice, but they should be able to come home to get that, and they don't. They don't have it. Vietnam veterans, because I'm a Vietnam era veteran and I deal a lot with them, I can tell you they will not
Nope.
ask you for help. I have said to this veteran here in Wyandotte, this is what they did to him. He went into surgery for ulcers. His teeth were rotted. The VA said, we're going to have to pull your teeth. Now, he's in and out. They said, we're going to have to pull your teeth because we're afraid they're going to fall out and you're going to swallow them. He said, okay, thinking, how can you pull out my teeth?
Right.
They pulled all his teeth, got done with the surgery. He heals. They go, okay, go home. He goes, wait a minute, where's my teeth?
Right.
They said, we're not giving you teeth. He goes, but you pulled them. And they said, well, they were rotted. He said, but I don't have any teeth. Don't know what to tell you. We got him teeth.
Nice.
We didn't pay for them. We got a dentist that donated them.
Sure.
This is a veteran now that we pay his rent so that he can have a quality of life, because you know what? He had boots on the ground. He fought for this country. And I'm sorry, but he lost his food stamps because in 2016, he joined a credit union. And some silly little program they had, he got a $22 check for points or whatever.
Oh, boy.
2018, food stamps found out he got a $22 check. They took away his food stamps.
Right.
He called me. He said, I get nothing. Guess who's handling his case right now? Debbie Dingle, and she will get him his food stamps. This is why we do what we do. We have great supporters. All the cereal you see in this place and the beans is from Swift Trucking.
Nice.
They call us because you have grocery stores that if the pallet's damaged, they won't take it. So she calls me and goes, do you want it? I go, heck yeah, we want it.
Heck yeah.
We don't just give, though, to the veterans. We have given, I don't know if you've heard of Blessings in a Backpack.
No, I have not.
It's children. It's very sad. It's as painful as a veteran. It's the children that go to school all week long and don't want to go home on the weekends because there's no food.
Right.
They don't want school to end because summer means no food. So we give cereal, and it's Blessing in a Backpack. What it is the teachers give the children a box of cereal to take home and put in their backpack on a Friday.
Is that a Downriver for veterans specific only?
No, not Downriver for veterans. It's a school thing down here. They started it in Wyandotte, and I reached out to them and I said, you know what? I don't know of any veteran that would stop me from giving cereal to a child. So my bylaws say veterans. I dare you to challenge me. So we have had Wyandotte schools come twice. We've delivered 100 at each time, boxes of cereal. We have now given to Allen Park. And just the thought of knowing that a child can get up in the morning on a Saturday morning if there's nothing else to eat, you know what? We got cereal.
Good job. Good job.
Thank you.
You know, you run into these all too often, and again, getting to the person is 98% of the battle, in my experience. And let me ask you, for all this food, for all the help you're getting, the dentures, the everything, how big a part is social media playing with that?
Oh. If it wasn't for social media, we wouldn't be where we are.
Right.
As you know, a nonprofit, I don't get paid. We pay our rent. We pay our utilities. We survive on donations. I don't have money to put a newspaper article out there. I don't have money to get a satellite. I don't have money to run a TV station. So I started Facebook, and thank God to social media. I mean, we had Mike Rowe here 3 weeks ago,
Nice.
didn't we?
Oh, he's one of my favorites.
Mike Rowe was here. This warehouse did not look like this a month ago. A month ago, you could not walk in here. Mike Rowe was here. He took me out of town. I wanted to kill him. He took me out of town.
You miss Mike Rowe?
Oh no, I met him.
Okay.
He is, as a matter of fact, if you go on my Facebook page, he is on the top of my page.
I did see
yes,
that. Okay.
that's Mike Rowe.
All right.
He hired Humble Design. He hired Humble Design to come in here. They literally tore this building apart, took down all the shelves that were in the middle, took all the shelves down that were on the side, rebuilt everything, and turned our warehouse because he asked me, which was crazy. He said, "What do you want?" And I said, "I would love for the warehouse to look like an actual business." Because when you walked in, there was nowhere to sit. There was
Right.
no coffee.
Everything just
it was
stacked. Yeah.
a flippin' warehouse.
No, I get it.
So I said, that is what I really want at this point. So my boyfriend took me away when we came back. He literally, they put in the chairs, they put in the coffee maker, they put in this table, they put in the rugs, they put in the desk. They literally turned this into, and I had no clue. There was a tarp over the front of the building. I had no clue. I pulled up with Mike Rowe in my Jeep, and I said, "Why are all these people in front of my house?" And he goes, "Just shut up and get out of the car." And I got out of the car, and I went, "Oh, my God." And they dropped the tarp, and I saw they painted the building, got a brand new sign, and I walked into a bunch of people. They had totally redone our building.
Yay.
And that was because I asked him later on, I said, why this one little old lady in little old Wyandotte in the middle of the whole United States, how in the hell did you find us? And he said, well, you were nominated 10 times, and we had to find out why. So because of them, he came here, and that is to air in November, which my boyfriend keeps telling me, beware. It's going to be bigger than you can imagine.
Good.
My goal is,
And
if we get bigger,
and
it's
guess who's gonna
more.
guess who's gonna get this podcast? The second I get it edited and get it out, that's you get the first link, you get to view the first
Okay.
one, and then the second one will probably go right to him. And I have a buddy that sat at a wedding with him at the same table, and didn't find out about it for months. And he goes, "I forgot all about it because he was just another guy at the table, and he could not have been a nicer."
He was absolutely, he was wonderful, and that has increased us even more. I mean, it is overwhelming at times. I am surprised my phone has not gone off. It goes off 24/7.
Well, you told me you were turning it off.
Well,
You
I didn't.
You didn't turn it
It's
off?
silenced.
Oh, okay.
Oh well.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. DFV is here to help the veterans to fix the gap that is missing between the government and the veteran. And there is a need, because if there wasn't a need, I wouldn't be here. We have a need. We have started our second one is going to be October 15th, excuse me. We have started a PTSD coffee snack
Okay.
thing we're doing here. It's on a Monday at 6:30. The last one we were at was really fantastic.
So wait a minute. 2447 Fort Street in Wyandotte. Mondays at what time?
Monday, October 15th at 6:30.
At 6:30, and it's PTSD
Yep.
or anybody that wants to come down and just chat and have
Talk.
coffee, donuts, and
Yeah.
just open.
Yes.
Just come by.
Yes.
Socialize.
Yes. We had this started by Nicholas. We lost a veteran to PTSD. He died by suicide.
Oh boy.
And I have learned since having this, you don't say he committed suicide. It's the worst thing you could ever say. You say he died by suicide, because suicide took him over. He was 34 years old and left behind a 9-year-old and a 3-year-old.
Oh,
I'm
wow.
part of the honor guard, and I was at the funeral, and it was the hardest funeral I ever had to do because I was facing the mom. And being in uniform, you would know this, Dennis, you can't move. So I literally was staring at mom who was falling apart because her husband had committed suicide because nobody knew. So his buddy Nicholas called me and said, "Listen, I want to do this. I need a place to do it." I said, "Use the warehouse. Come do it." So our first meeting was kind of screwy because it was him and a Vietnam vet.
Okay.
So who would ever think an Iraqi vet and a Vietnam vet would ever be in the same room and be able to talk? Um, it was amazing. I had Chris Brown, who works for Detroit Mental Health Authority, who's a clinical psychiatrist. I told Nicholas when he wanted to do this, I said, "You could do it at the warehouse, but you're not a shrink and neither am I. So unless we can get somebody here, we are not doing it because you are not going to help. You're only going to hinder."
Good point.
So I got Chris Brown to come. He sat with us. It was only the three of, well, it was four of us, but I stayed out of it. I videotaped it and I put it on our page, and we got a lot of views. And since then, I have had other people say, "My brother committed suicide. Can I come?" My uncle committed. I'm like, this is open to anybody. And my goal is, if we get it going enough, I have a Navy veteran that wants to teach other veterans how to whittle wood,
Okay.
which is very good therapy.
Sure.
So I thought, well, if we can get this going, we can get people to come in here and chit chat while they're whittling wood. Nicholas was a little upset because he said, we only had three of us. He said, "What if we only have three of us next month?" I said, "What of it? What if you only have three of us in December? What of it?" Rome wasn't built in a day. DFE didn't get this big overnight. You stay with it. Your heart has to be there. You bring the issues. You let people see that it's not a point fingers. It's just a talk. It's an open door. You can leave when you want. Coffee and a conversation. I said it may take you 6 months before you get 5 people in here, but you have to start somewhere. So that's my goal now, because I have another veteran that is at Wyandotte Hospital whose parents are pulling his plug tomorrow.
Oh.
He committed suicide with opioids. He leaves behind 3 children, and he is 43 years old.
Oh, man.
You can't change it. You can't give the children an answer on why it happened. Why wasn't it seen? I know his sister, and his sister said to me, "Ann, I didn't see it." I said, "We need it out there." It's like I saw on the news the other day, bring it out of the darkness. People think it's taboo. Don't talk about it. It's a horrible thing. Yes, it's a horrible thing, but
Sure.
unless we can talk about it, unless you know the signs, we're going to keep losing. These were 2 Iraqi veterans that we've lost within a month.
Right.
How many more do we have to lose before we can say, "Listen, we care"? And they're not single veterans. They're veterans with families, with wives, with children.
Yeah, with a support system,
Yes,
you would think.
yes. And this 9-year-old, he just broke down, and I'm thinking, what do you say to him? What do you tell him? He's 9 years old. He has no idea how hard this is going to hit yet.
Yep.
Until he goes to school and it's father-son day or football. He gets to go through the rest of his life
Well, you never know when
not
it's going to hit.
understanding.
Right?
No.
Right.
So that is what we are into now, is going into the PTSD, trying to get people to come in here and just have a conversation, talk about whatever you want to talk about, and let people know there is a place to come. But we do have a specialist that sits here. So it's not like come in here and you think Ann's going to tell you what. I'm not going to tell you. I'm going
Right.
to tell you what to do.
Right.
But we do have somebody here that is very, very good. His name is Chris Brown, and he is amazing. And he is just, he is a wealth of information and like a big shoulder.
It's another resource.
Yes.
It's another resource just might be, like you said, it helps one person. Who cares if 3 people
Yes.
show up every
Yes.
month?
Yes.
Help one person, and you're absolutely right. And Again, maybe we'll talk about something after we get off air here that is coming up with this podcast. And I had another thought. I'll edit this out. But reminder to self, this system can be replicated pretty easily. And we could show somebody locally how to do this. And you could open this up and have somebody like Dennis sitting with vets and this is powerful. But we could easily do that, and I could draw you the blueprint and give you a parts list, and we could come in and do a little lesson on how to do this. I'd be happy to do that. My dad was a Shriner.
Oh.
And he drove. That's another thing. They had jackets like that, and he was a Lancer, so he drove a little convertible Oldsmobile.
Oh God, yeah.
And I was a little kid and got drugged to all the parades, and I was just like, oh God, Dad, not one more parade. I do not want to go to the Howell Mountain Festival one more time. I do not want to go to this. I do not want to go to that. I got a little older, and because I was so much younger and my brother and sister were already out of the house, I got drugged to all these things. And when I got in my teens, I actually would sit in the back of the bar sometime after the parade or whatever, and I still have something burned into my brain, is that there's 50 inebriated Shriners in there, because they did like to tip a few back, but in the middle, one guy shut everybody up, brought a little 8-year-old kid in there that only had half an arm, and kind of stood him up and talked about him, and I saw 50 grown men crying.
Yeah.
My dad drove the, it's not a politically correct term anymore, and I don't know what they call it, but he drove the Burn and Crippled Children bus to the Burn Center in Chicago. So my dad was a truck driver.
Wow.
and drove buses, so he would have this $1 million bus in front of our little house in Melvindale.
That's awesome.
That had all these special facilities inside that help little kids, and you could not have told him that he wasn't going to do that ever.
Yeah.
I see the passion. It's kind of, it laid dormant in me for a long time, but it's sneaking back up on me.
Yeah.
So I appreciate everything you're doing. Obviously, I can't help but get the feeling you keep helping where there's a hole.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also a hole springing up. How many more fingers do you have to plug these holes? How many more DFVs do we need? How much more and is there? You know what I'm asking? You know what I'm saying? Little Debbie in the dike, how many fingers can you put in there and stop the leaks? Obviously, you can't get them all because we just heard some pretty horrible stories. But how much more can you do? Does the building get bigger? Donations get bigger? Do you get more people?
You don't stop. There's no such word.
Best answer.
Can't stop. If I don't have any fingers, I'll use yours.
There you go.
I'll get somebody. If I need money, I'll beg. I'll find a way to get it. We have so far. There is nothing that I haven't asked for that we don't have. I have silent donors that don't like publicity.
Right.
That I seriously could reach out to and say, I need $20,000 like right now. And they would say, okay.
All right.
But I think it's because they know. I have people call me and I have a guy, Hodge Berry, called me. He goes, last month I donated toilet paper, which is still full on the shelf. He said, I want to donate this month. What do you want? And I said, I don't want anything. And he goes, but I want to donate. I said, I will not take from you until I need it. I said, you know what? Next month we will probably need water. And if you look down there, you can see there are not that many cases of water left. I said, by the end of November, they will probably be gone. And unless somebody donates water, I will reach out to you and ask you for 50 cases of water. Until that time, I don't want you to donate. we are not gloating. We don't take what we don't need. But if I need it, I will stand on the corner with a tin can and a wooden spoon and bang that thing all day long till I get what I need.
Well, I'll tell you what. It's very obvious to me that this is all about you. This is taking on your personality. This is taking on your tenaciousness. It is taking on everything. And my business brain says, "Do you got a second in command you're training?"
I have very, very, very good volunteers. I have super people.
What if you needed to leave for a month?
Oh, I'm leaving for 2 weeks. My boyfriend actually.
All right. What if you need to leave for 6 months?
I'm not.
No. Well, let's say you
I'm
had
not.
to. Let's say
I'm
you
not.
had
well,
to.
then the good Lord is taking me because I'm not.
Okay.
There is no such thing. What do you mean I got to leave? What for what reason would I have to leave? Is there a new Vietnam? Is there a war? Are you going to give me a gun? You're going to go make me fight?
No, I was
Then
doing a hypothetical and
Nope,
saying
there is
have
no-
a second
nope,
person ready to
nope,
go
nope,
that
nope,
got your personality, training, knowledge.
No, you know what? If I die, somebody will pick it up. Is there somebody right now? Hell no, because we didn't think 17 months later we'd be where we are now. I'm still trying to catch up. I'm not going anywhere. I take care of myself. I'm one tough biatch. I'm not going to stop. I am not going to stop. I am very... my boyfriend will tell you, he tells people as a joke, she was a general in the Air Force. I go, I was not. He goes, well, you act like it.
Is that right, Norm?
Yeah.
A drill sergeant, he said. If you couldn't hear that on mic.
I am, it's just, there's no stopping. It's not going to stop. I sleep very well at night. It's crazy. People think, do you ever sleep? And I go, man, when my head hits a pillow, I'm done.
You're exhausted,
Yes.
and you. I used to tell as a manager, I used to tell young men that I trained in business, and it was the airline industry and other places. And I said, they would come to me and say, well, so-and-so's filing a grievance and they're doing this and they're doing that. And I go, look, man, end of the day, there's only one person you look in the mirror. You make sure you can look at yourself and you're doing okay.
Mm-hmm.
Don't worry about what they're doing or anything else. I go, you'll sleep really good if you know you put in a good 8 hours and worked your butt off and did everything you were supposed to.
And you know what? I'm thinking like of my veteran in Wyandotte. I'm thinking to myself, we paid his $284 rent, and he got his check today. So I picture him right now sitting in his apartment with his feet up and with probably a 6-pack of beer going, damn, this feels good. And if that is all it takes to make a veteran smile, is a 6-pack of beer, then DFE works. Because you know what? If we weren't here, that 6-pack of beer, which is all that makes him happy, would not be there. And he gave his life for this country. And he sits by himself every day with no happiness. So tonight I will go to bed and I will think of him and I will think, God, I hope you didn't drink the whole 6-pack and fall off the couch. That will be the worst scenario of what could happen today. And hallelujah if it did.
Well, free will. And
Yeah.
His chance to feel like a man.
Yes.
And like a person with choices.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, boy, we've covered a lot here. And let me take that camera off you for a minute.
Thank you. I'm sorry.
Why would you be sorry?
Because I asked Norm. I cry all the time. I try not to cry. It doesn't work. Every time they take me anywhere, see what it says? Roseanne. Wherever I go, somebody's got a box of Kleenex, and they're like,
well, I'm going to steal a term from somebody, but your passion bucket overflows.
Yeah, I'm good.
There you go. So you're going well. You're wildly successful. You got that damn Mike Rowe on your side.
Yeah.
Which is a darn good thing.
Yeah.
In where do you? I know the answer to this, and we kind of answered it, but where do you go from here? Um, are you starting to formally place people like a technology person, or you just come up with an idea and say we're going to do it, make it happen, and then it kind of
Well, it's before Mike Rowe came, our goal was a handicap van.
okay?
We have disabled veterans. And unfortunately, if you're not 100% disabled, you don't get transportation to the VA.
Okay,
Well, I have 3 veterans that are wheelchair bound, that have no legs, that miss appointments because they can't get to the VA. So
they're not declared 100%.
no, no,
No legs.
because it didn't happen because of a health issue in the VA. It was diabetes after.
or yeah.
So they're 50%. So I said, listen, we're going to do fundraisers and fundraisers and fundraisers until we get the money to get a handicap van. Well, Mickey Sell Your Ride reached out to me and he said, what do you need? I said, just a simple van that opens on the side. The lift goes down. You can ride a wheelchair in, strap him in. I can take him to the VA. He went all the way to Florida and found us one for the $13,000 we had saved up. It was kind of comical because Mike Rowe did not know we had a van. His wishes was to come here and donate a handicap van from Ford Motor Company, which was all set up.
Oh yeah, because
It
he's
was only-
a Ford spokesman,
Yes.
isn't he?
Well, he
Okay.
only found out when he got here. It was already paid for. We already had one. So we went through that whole thing, and then he asked me, what's your next step? My next step is a shelter, a transitional home
Okay.
for 90 days, maybe four bedrooms with a kitchen, couple of offices,
Okay.
where a veteran coming home can stay. We hook him up with Michigan Works. If he wants to go to college, we help him get to college. We help him get a job. We help him get a car. We help him get on his feet. And after 90 days, we cut him loose.
You're that transition service that we
Yes.
talked about
Yes.
an hour ago.
That is what my next goal is.
And that's a good one.
Yeah.
That's a very good one. Okay. I like that as well.
That's a big step. And people are like, man, that's probably going to take you 5 or 6 years. I said, listen, we had a van in 14 months, and I thought it was going to take 2 years.
Sure.
So you know what? If it takes 5 years, it takes 5 years. But we've been so blessed. If we can get the word out, if we can get these people to believe we are legit, to follow us, to see that nobody gets paid. We pay our bills. I don't get paid. We use that van religiously.
Sure.
As a matter of fact, today, one of our members called me. He's a Marine. He said to me, listen, I need to borrow the van. And I said, what's going on? He goes, my dad is coming out of Rivergate. I need to take him to Ann Arbor. I said, okay. He's in a wheelchair. He said, I don't know where to go but to you. I said, that is why we have the van.
Right. And I ran into way too many of that. I have, I may have to edit this out, but I have social workers from the VA that reach out to me and say, can you go talk to this person? And they've also pulled me aside and said, you know, if it wasn't for you, your dad probably would have died about 8 years ago.
Yeah. You saved your father. You did.
Well, you know, yeah, I always say it was my penance for being a wild child.
It was you being his son.
Well, yeah, that was
was.
absolutely a part of it. And then, you know, and Mom needed the help. Mom's still around, bless her. And that's another thing too. That's a rough transition period for her, in that she was taking care of him at 89 years old. Her being 89 years old, pretty much full time.
Yeah.
And she would say things like, I might need a little help.
Yep.
I'm like, well, you're damn right you do.
Yeah.
And now it's really quiet.
Yeah.
That's probably been the roughest thing on her for these last 6 months.
Is the quietness.
Yeah,
The responsibility you had is gone.
right.
Yeah.
A sense of purpose. And,
Yeah.
you know, and now we shove some money and send her down to the casino every once in a while. And
Give her a good, yeah.
she
Go
does
have
it
a
on her
good
own.
time. Yeah.
She's very hard of hearing, and she's very competitive. She grew up here from Tennessee, but they had when they first got into the senior center we moved them into. They had to change the rules of bingo because my mom would win all the time.
Really?
So they made it you can only win once. And people watching this, my aunts and cousins and everybody.
That's it.
Yeah, she's pretty competitive. So my dad was gone a lot, so I ended up playing solitaire or, hey, I need a pinochle partner, which at 8 years old I was playing pinochle. And if I screwed up, I heard about it.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So I became a halfway decent card player at a young age and put myself through my sophomore year of college, maybe playing a little.
Pinochle?
No, we played other games. But I think we could probably do this once a month. I don't think I can get here once a month.
No.
But we could sit down and maybe we'll figure out something else communication-wise, or maybe that idea that I talked about has legs, and I could tell you how to do that because this piece of equipment you're looking here, that's not cheap.
No.
But that's the hub. That's like a that brings everything in. And you don't need this as much as I have. I went a little overboard on this, but you could shrink that down. All this could be had for a certain dollar I can throw you at, and you might be a little surprised. And somebody always has an iPad.
Well, you know, it's kind of funny you brought that up because I haven't seen Dennis in I don't know how long. But he would be fantastic.
Dennis, slide over there in that chair.
Oh, jeez.
No, slide over there. And,
He would be.
and you're not going to be able to. I'd have to hook the other mic up.
No, scoot him over
But
here.
we'll just sit you there so you're in the picture.
All right, if I'm going to get in here, I do have to say this woman is amazing.
Yeah,
This woman
that's
is
very.
absolutely amazing. What she sacrificed. Spectacular. There's people like this that care, and I think that's outstanding. So I don't mean to be more emotional with you, but that's fantastic.
Hey, you guys
And,
suck because you're both going to make me cry.
I
and
think it's great.
and
And I'm going to make her happy real quick, too. She's here because we have a scanner, and we're going to find a way to get that all scanned onto one of our hard drives, so that way you can do that.
that will
So it's
take
gonna take
forever,
time,
dude. Yeah.
But
Well,
have
you got
a scanner,
volunteers.
And we
I
have the
don't care.
technology,
Good
and we
point.
have someone that can do it.
You know
okay?
what? To know somebody starting it,
Exactly.
it's
There you
not
go.
going. Right now, every day I come in and I, believe it or not, I count them. Are they all here? Did anybody touch them? I had one guy come in one day and he sat there while I was giving his wife some stuff. And he goes, oh, man. He goes, I want to take these home. Can I take it home? And I go, no. And he goes, why? He goes, what good are they in here?
Oh,
And I said, because if I let it go and it doesn't come back, nobody will ever know.
no.
You-
No.
You can take, when you leave, because I know Dennis, you're welcome to take one of those books home and read them tonight because I trust you. When you open them up and you see the news articles from back then, he did one thing in there. I pulled the book out and I was like, I wonder how accurate he really was. And there was I can't remember what it was right now, but there was an incident during World War II where the Germans were coming in and there were bombs or something set off underneath the ocean or whatever. And I can't remember what it was exactly called, but he had dated it, named it, and everything. And I thought, no way. So I Googled it to the point. He was accurate. And he didn't Google it because this man never used a computer in his entire life.
All right. So, two things here. One, this is Dennis Rosales. He's a Marine. I told you earlier he's here. He's from Melvinville High School. He's a couple years behind me. And we chat on Facebook all the time. And I'd say we hung out about 30 seconds in high school. And I feel like he's a best friend from Facebook. I love social media. I embraced it so long ago. And I love the positive aspects for it, not all the other crap. But I'm fascinated with the algorithms and how it hooks up people and everything else. So that is why I asked you about your technology question. Now, second, Dennis, I'm going to give you an assignment here, is what she just said about Germans and bombs in the ocean. So my dad was on a minesweeper, and I always assumed he was in some far-off land. He was in New York Harbor for 2 years. So the Germans used to tow in or bring in mines with a submarine every night. And then in the morning, the Navy would get up, cut them loose, find them, cut them loose, drag them out to sea, and blow them up. So if you find a USS Towhee, is Towhee, I believe. If that's in that book, I
It'll
want to
be in
know
the
about
book.
it.
You give him a year because every book you can see right there, 1945, 1943.
I'll find my dad's years of service. But you'll find a
Look in
Towhee.
there.
The Towhee was sunk at one time or damaged. And his old home week, man. What's up, brother? My cousin just walked in with his fiance, and he's flashing pictures. So all this time I had this on you and not me. Oh, boy. But if you find a Towhee, I want to know about it. That's what Dad was on, brother. And
I bet it's in there. I know it is.
So the rehash, Scott, those books up there, that is a veteran writing every day from
1942.
1942 to the day he died. He documented every news
Everything.
article,
Everything.
hand wrote every war fact, everything
the
you can
ship history.
find is in those books. And Dennis just volunteered to scan it all and digitize it. I think he's crazy.
I
But
didn't volunteer. I volunteered my wife.
oh.
I will say one thing, honest to God. You will take only one book and you will not put it down. Because when it sinks in your head that book didn't come off Google, it didn't come out of an encyclopedia. That man lived every single thing he wrote in there.
Right.
That was Mr. Malpese in that book. So when you get that in your head and you're reading it, you can't stop because you're like, oh my God, you see the articles. He's got the people that he was stationed with that died. He's got how many people were in the Japanese concentration camps? How many women? How many children? How many died? It's stuff what I told you. You
Right.
cannot find that. That is why that whole thing stays here. Because
Good for you.
He's gone,
Right.
but his memory cannot die.
Absolutely.
It can't.
And you would find stuff. Another great example. So I did a month ago or so a gentleman named Walter L. Davidson, and he tells this great story, and I'm guessing he's towards the end here, and he's World War II. He was a Navy corpsman. He's with the 1st Marines that went. He was actually on the ship crossing the Pacific when Tokyo Rose came on and said, "Boys, this is where you're going. We're prepared, and you're all going to die."
Yeah.
And the commander the next morning said, well, you're not going to die, but that is where we're going.
Yeah.
She knew before they did. Now, he was the Navy corpsman with the Marines. He was on the transport. They laid a barrage for hours and hours and hours on this island. They had deemed it important as a midway point, besides Midway, to refuel planes getting to Japan. It's contested whether or not it was really important. The island was called Peleliu, P-E-L-E-L-I-U.
Yeah.
Hello.
Say that correctly, because I say it wrong. I see it
Peleliu.
phonetically, and
Yeah.
I say it
Yeah,
wrong.
he said it right.
So he was on the transport. All the transports got hit because they were told 1 to 3 days max to totally take this place over. What they didn't realize is the island was mostly coral. Japan figured it would be strategically important. They sent in miners months ahead of time, and they dug trenches, they dug caves, they dug everything. So they just went in the cave while all these bombs were dropping. And then when they were coming up in the transports, they got laid into like nobody's business. Now, my point of telling that whole story is he went over the side. He ended up on first beach rather than third beach. 8 years ago, he got a call from the Lions, Lyons, Lions group, and said, "Walter, are you a hero?" And he goes, "Well, hell no, I'm not a hero." And they go, "Well, we were told that you're a hero at that battle, and you were the first man on the beach." And he goes, "No. Who would tell you that?" And they said, "Well, so-and-so." And he goes, "Well, yeah, he was there." This gentleman is 97 years old. He just found out 8 years ago
Wow.
that this guy said, "No, Walter went over the side, and he was the first man on the beach." And he goes, "Well, wait a minute. That guy said that?" He goes, "I just went for the closest beach." And then I got told you're on the wrong beach, go to the other beach. And he got hit, and he's still carrying a thumb-sized piece of metal in the middle of his chest, and another one there, and a couple on the back of his leg. And his story was, by the time he saw a surgeon, it was 11 days later, and the surgeon said, "Well, you've had it in this long, and
Leave it alone.
you're not dead. So
Yeah.
if we go in there and cut that loose, that may do something." So he's had that in his
And you
body.
know what? It is so fascinating when you talk about the World War II vets.
They're straight up badasses.
They're not just bad. I'm part of the honor guard. I'm junior vice at post 217 on the water, and we do funerals. I have one tomorrow. We are burying our World War II veterans unbelievably fast.
Oh yes.
They're
Oh yes.
they're not left. There's very few left, and they are so. It's so funny running DFE and being a Vietnam era veteran. I've dealt with the World War II. I've dealt with the Korean. I've dealt with the Vietnam. I'm now dealing with the Iraqi freedom.
Mm-hmm.
It is so. The World War II veteran was so bloody proud.
Yes.
Just we are men. They don't hide it. They talk about it.
Now they do.
Yes, but it isn't the same as the Vietnam vet. The Vietnam vet, I remember living in San Francisco, they dumped red paint on their heads
Right.
when they got off the plane.
Right.
The Vietnam veterans to this day don't want your help. They
Nope.
don't want to go to the VA.
Nope.
They don't want to ask you for anything because you know what? Everybody called them a baby killer, but nobody realized they were in a draft. They
Right.
didn't ask to
Right.
go. And then you've got the Iraqi vet, and I can say this because my son, I forced him into the military. The Iraqi vet or our veterans that are younger veterans are nowhere near as tough as our Vietnam vets. They're not. How many Vietnam vets have you ever heard of committing suicide? How many Afghanistan vets are committing suicide? They drop daily. I don't know why. I don't know what we're doing. I don't know if it's the upbringing. I don't know if it's because they're being forced into the military and they're not man enough. I don't know. But being in the service since 1973, I see the Vietnam vet. They are so proud. They don't want to talk about it.
They're becoming the World War II
Yes,
vet.
but they don't. They kind of like pull your big boots on and just deal with it. I don't know where we missed it with our younger veterans. We've missed it somewhere. They are crying. They are hurting. They're lonely. They're desperate. They're lost. And they're killing themselves. It's wrong. Why? That is why it's so important to get PTSD out there. How do we let that mom know what you're seeing? It's okay to call somebody. It's okay to put him in Grand Rapids for a month. It's okay to get him help.
Right.
Unfortunately, the VA is giving opioids to these veterans. The one we're losing tomorrow OD'd on opioids that the VA gave him because it was much easier to keep him stoned than it was to sit there and talk to him about his problems. There is no one-on-one. That doesn't happen anymore. I know because I'm dealing with two of them right now. One of them's Jordan. He, bless his heart, he lost his best buddy in Iraq, came home, and he found his sister dead in the trunk of a car 2 weeks later.
No.
He's attempted suicide 4 times. We gave him a truck 2 weeks ago. I gave it to him and I said, listen, he's with the Veterans Court. I said, I'm going to give you this truck. You need to work on it. You need to stay busy. As soon as you get it fixed, here's the key. As soon as you get your life on track, I'll give you the title. It's yours. Go back to school. He used to come and see me and he was like this. And I would go, Jordan, this last week, I call him up. I go, Jordan, I need you on Wednesday. And he's like, yep, I'm there. He goes, oh, by the way, I got the truck running. It wasn't easy. It's very hard. I have to call him every day. I have to stay on him. There are thousands of them out there. I can't call them all. We need a place where people can come, that they know what to look for, that they can talk, that they can say, hey, I know my neighbor's like that. Tell me what to do. Tell me how I can stop him from being the next one they're going to pull the plug on because he's 34 years old and dead. It's got to be out there. We got to not be afraid to talk about it.
Absolutely, and that's the first point. And the second point is, just like we talked about, plugging all the holes in the dike, you just keep working at it.
Yeah.
You just keep putting your finger in there, and
now I got Dennis recruited.
there you go. We sucked him in, didn't we?
Screws him to have known me a long time ago, huh?
It'll be all right.
Happy coincidence.
Yeah.
I was telling her that last night on Facebook, you said, you should probably stop by Downriver for Veterans. I'm like, oh, really?
Yeah.
Really? You
Talk to
think
Ann.
that'd be a good idea?
Yeah.
See you there tomorrow.
Right. Yeah. Life's crazy, isn't it?
It takes a team. It's not Ann.
Great point.
People will say, "Oh my God, Ann, thank you so much." You know what? If he shows up, if it takes him and them and her to put on Facebook, we have a meeting October 15th at 6:30. Come for coffee and snacks. Let's just chit chat.
See,
There
now,
you go.
now you got to put it in my planner for
Yeah.
me.
Let's talk about what we don't talk about. How about we do that? How about we bring Jordan in here? How about we talk to Jordan and ask him, hey, what's life like? How about we make a new friend?
Yeah.
That's all it takes. One person telling somebody else could save the life of another father or a son or a brother. Because I've lost 2 in 3 weeks, and they both have children.
Ugh.
What do you tell these children? How do you tell them, I'm sorry, we didn't see it, we didn't catch it? Let's do something to catch the next one. Let's do something to tell her or her that, hey, this is a sign. Now you've got a phone number. We'll give you the information. We'll tell you where to go. We'll tell you what to do, and we won't leave you alone. We'll help you get better. That is, I think, DFV's new step. We still do the furniture. We still do the
Sure.
food. We still do all of that. But being in the honor guard, I have another funeral coming because they're going to pull a plug on him tomorrow.
Sure,
So I get to look at another Iraq veteran's family and not be able to give an answer on why we didn't see this coming.
Well, I'll tell you what I'm hearing is you're evolving.
Yeah.
You're evolving from, hey, let me give you a case of beans and a case of water and a bed and everything else. But you're evolving into the next level of help that people need.
Yeah.
And you've done that in a year.
But what you're doing for me right now,
you should be pretty proud.
well, what you're doing for me right now, you've brought 4 people into my life that if you weren't here today, these 4 people would not be here. And another guy that already left. If you weren't here, this wouldn't be going out there. If we touch just one wife who says, oh my God, maybe I should call them. Maybe they can help me help my husband. My God, that is like winning a treasure. It is like winning.
That's the
It's
the butterfly effect.
Yeah, it is, because
that'll
you know
help their
what?
kids. It'll help their kids. It'll help their kids. It'll help
And
somebody's
that's your
family.
son. That's somebody's son
Absolutely.
that you're saving. So yeah,
Absolutely.
you doing this is amazing, except for I really hate it when I keep crying. God, I hate it. I try so hard not
you had
to
me going a
cry.
couple of times. So I'll tell you what. We've been going.
Yeah, I'm
I can't. I
tired.
don't even have my glasses on. I can't tell you how long we've been
Oh,
going.
we got to go.
I can tell you we've been recording for a while now. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to wrap this up. You're exhausted. Look at you.
I am
We
toast.
beat it up pretty good.
She's all right.
So we're going to wrap this up. I want you to tell me now, how do people get in touch with you?
We have a Facebook page, Downriver for Veterans.
Downriver for Veterans on Facebook.
Yes.
That's
we
one.
also have a website, www.downriverforveterans.org.
Okay.
Or you can call me on my phone. It's on 24/7, 734-934-0532.
Did you just give out your cell phone number on air?
That's it's out there. It's on the
Come
back
on,
of the
Nora.
building. It's on the back of the building.
That's not our burner phone. That's
Nope.
that's the
Nope.
real phone.
That's it.
Oh my
'Cause you know
goodness
what?
gracious!
Norm understands now. I don't care if we were sitting here right now and I could feel if my phone had a phone call. I would have grabbed it. If I didn't see
Sure.
the number, I would have said, I've got to take it, because you know what? That could have been a phone call that if I missed it, it could be a hungry person, a homeless person, a distressed person. I never want to miss that call, because I'm the one that's got to put my head on the pillow. And that 2 seconds of your life to answer that phone call that you didn't answer because you didn't think it was important made a difference possibly in somebody else's life. So, yeah, it's my cell phone. We have Sundays, which now, it's only been a month now. My board and all my members have finally said, stop. Sundays, you need to just stop. So it's on Facebook. Everybody knows now. I never, believe it or not, get phone calls on Sunday now. It's my only day of rest. It's Norm and I's time. I try to quit at 5. Doesn't happen a lot.
You can put my number up for Sunday from now.
There we go.
That'll help you out.
All right.
Oh, backup call. There you go.
Perfect.
Second
Perfect.
call. We solved
Somebody-
another problem just now.
Perfect.
There you go. It's a good day.
Yeah.
I will wrap it up. We're all emotionally drained. I couldn't be more honored. I couldn't be more proud of what you're doing, what the Downriver people are doing. I have a hard time explaining to my family out west now, saying, this is an extreme analogy, but if I got a call at 2 a.m. and said, hey, grab a bat and come help me out, I got quite a few people that would do that. And that, that's not literal. Well, maybe it is. But it's a way of life for people down here of teamwork and camaraderie and what you're doing. And when you talked about the gentleman in his home and all the busy moms and putting things together, that's what people used to do for the people within a couple of blocks.
Yes.
So Facebook and websites and social media have been able to let you expand your 2 blocks, for lack of a better way of putting it. So kudos to you, and very good job, and I can't say enough. And
thank you.
We're shouting out, Mike Rowe, I'm calling you out, pal. This is coming to you, and we'll blow this up and put a number on there and get that second handicap van. You should have left it. I'm a little disappointed in you.
Beautiful.
All right, we'll wrap it up, and thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Oh my God, thank you. You're a godsend.
No.
Yeah, you are.
I'm a technology little dork that likes to talk.
Wait a minute. You appeared out of nowhere. I get this message, and it's like, I want to do this, and I'm thinking, is this real? Does this really happen? Who is this character? And I'm like, I don't know how to find out. I looked up your Facebook page, and I'm like, that don't tell me nothing. And then you're like, I'm in Chicago, and I'm coming, and I'm thinking, he's from Melvindale. What's he doing in Chicago? So I'm thinking, well, and then when you said Michelle, I'm thinking, I love Michelle. He's got to be legit.
And then I said, yeah, Dennis might show up. She's like, who's Dennis? Oh, I know Dennis.
No, you said his last name,
Yeah,
and I
and
knew
went
him. I
right
said
away.
Lowe's.
So shout out to Michelle Kessler. We went to high school together, and she sent me a Facebook message and said, hey, you're doing this with veterans. Would you consider talking to Downriver for veterans?
Wow.
I'm like, hell yeah.
Wow.
And she goes, okay, I'm going to send you Ann's info and have her friend you, or you friend her and start talking. But I had no idea that she had just kind of pushed that off and then walked away.
Yeah,
and
I
you
never
had no
knew.
idea.
I had no idea. Michelle, I still love you.
There you go. Still, did you know?
I always loved you.
Oh, okay, there you go.
I always did.
All right, we're done.
Thank you.
Good job, man.
Wrapped
You're
up.
awesome. Oh, great.